Welcome in to a brand new edition of the Triple Coverage Podcast, Bills fans. It's the week that the Bills will face the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm really jacked up for this thing. This is going to be a great matchup, and I know if we lose, it's not going to be the end of the world, but winning this matchup keeps us in play at least for the number one seed. We'll at least have a chance to have a bye week to start the playoffs, and that's a big advantage for the Buffalo Bills because we've had a lot of injuries happen on wild card weekend in the past, and I think that if we can avoid that and get ourselves off to a good start with a bye week, that this will bode well for the Bills season as a whole. So with that, to my left, Scott Casson. I am Lance Nelson, and to my right, Benjamin Shoop. What's up, Shoop?
Oh, nothing much, just ready for the game Sunday. And, want to touch on what you just said there, injuries. That's the number one thing, even though outside of winning this game, honestly, I actually might even want that more than winning is everybody just to stay healthy on the Bills. It's that time of the year where this is where if somebody gets injured, it could lead into the playoffs. So let's hope for a clean game on both sides of the ball, nobody getting hurt. But if the Bills win, that's just the added benefit or boost to like the confidence there of the team if they can stay healthy and win the game.
Yeah, super excited for the game this weekend. Like you mentioned, a couple guys banged up, but I think this is the first time the Chiefs have come to Buffalo with fans in the regular season since before COVID. I know they came in the playoffs last season, but we've gone there the last 3 years in the regular season. So cool for them to come here. It's definitely a big game. Like you said, if they lose, it's not the end of the world. The season isn't over. But if they want to get that one seed, get that bye, definitely one that you got to have.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of injuries, Harrison Butker is going to miss this game. So, what does that change, if anything, for you? Go ahead, Scott. I'll start with you.
I wouldn't say it changes a ton. Obviously, he's a very good kicker who doesn't seem to miss big kicks. But in a game where the other team has Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback, I wouldn't say that I'm like it doesn't move the needle much that the kicker is hurt. I know they're basically just signing someone off the street. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he came from the Jets practice squad. So like I said, Bucker really, really good, but it doesn't move.
Spencer Schrader is the guy's name.
There you go, cousin of Hank Schrader, I think, from Breaking Bad. Yeah, like it doesn't move the needle a ton. Like it's the kicker. I know that they're people too. Shout out Pat McAfee, but yeah, like it I don't know if it really moves the needle on the game for me much.
Yeah, I'm similar. I mean, it definitely, it could end up changing the game in a completely big way and really change the outcome of the game. But at the end of the day, it doesn't affect how I look at either of these teams. Both of these teams, are very talented teams. The Chiefs, even though they don't have Butker like that, like Scott said, it doesn't change much when you have Patrick Mahomes back there because even if it is late and they're not trusting their kicker, let's say their kickers missed 2 field goals in the entire game, down in the fourth quarter, they might then say, hey, we're going to go for it now every time we get even in field goal range, and that could change it in a negative way for the Bills if they continue to get that extra play. So, at the end of the day, it doesn't change too much. It could end up being a big aspect of the game down the stretch. But when it comes to before the game, looking at who should win, it's not going to change the line, not going to change somebody's decision on, yes, they're going to win or they're going to lose, in my opinion. But it could end up being a huge factor when it gets to the fourth quarter late in the game.
Yeah, I don't think it necessarily changes a lot of the game, but it certainly is going to affect some decision making where if they would have normally gone for a field goal, they may opt out of doing that at certain times, and that may affect things inadvertently if they go for it an extra time or two, and if the Bills are able to get those fourth down stops or what have you. I think that could play a role, but it's only going to play a role if certain situations arise, I'd say. So, yeah, overall, obviously doesn't affect the Chiefs offense or the Chiefs defense too much in their operations, but maybe how they call the game, a little bit of how situationally what they decide to do in a go for it situation type of deal. They may opt to go instead of kick if they're 4th and 2 from the 37 or something, rather than where they would normally trot out Butker with no problem. They may opt against that. So situationally, I think it definitely could change things. Overall, may not affect the meat of the game, I would say. And next, we want to talk a little bit about the Allen Mahomes rivalry here. Does a regular season game hold much weight for you guys when you're looking at Allen versus Mahomes, and what sort of legacy that carries? Shoop, go ahead.
To me, this one's a tough one because it does at the end of the day, because you do when you look at the full-time records, but when it comes to the legacy of both of them, at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything, right? At the end of the day, it matters who wins in the playoffs. And as much as, it's nice to win these games, in 10 years from now, nobody's going to care who won a week 11 matchup versus the Chiefs and the Bills, right? They're going to care about who won the divisional round, who won the conference championship, who won those big games. So for me, it doesn't hold a ton of weight, but it definitely plays a factor when at least you look at, I guess, the how the rest of the league views them, right? When you look at Allen, I think it means more for Allen than Mahomes. When you look at Allen, if he can beat at least Mahomes in the regular season, you can at least say, okay, well, during the season, he is the second best quarterback, third best quarterback, however you want to rank him, because he can beat Mahomes consistently, right? So there it kind of makes a difference when it comes to how people look at Allen, but when it comes to the actual rivalry between Allen and Mahomes, I don't think regular season games really change much.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there, Ben. I don't think that the regular season games mean a ton, because look, like Josh Allen in the regular season against Pat Mahomes is 3-1, but he's 0-3 in the playoffs, and that's really all that matters when it comes down to considering who the greats are. Like Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, like they had an all-time rivalry, and Peyton Manning only beat Brady in the playoffs a couple times that I can remember, and that those are the ones that really came down to. So yeah, I don't put a ton of stock into regular season games. Obviously, you want Josh Allen to play well, you want the Bills to win, but if they lose this game and they beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, I will take that trade every single day of the week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of indifferent about regular season matchups now. Kind of spoiled to be able to say that, right? Because of how often we couldn't say that for 20 years of our lives. Well, my life, you guys may have not cared for a couple of those years, being a little bit younger than me, but I definitely just unreal that we can talk about or have the luxury to talk about this game overall not having a huge mark because it's a regular season game, and just kind of one of many that have gone back and forth over the years. And I think these guys are still going to get up to this game overall. I think they're still going to want to beat each other, but I think everyone understands that the real crux of this thing is when it gets down to playoffs, and when you're trying to vie for a Super Bowl berth, who's going to come out victorious there. So I think like you both said, we all agree kind of that we're fortunate right now to just say, like, well, whatever happens doesn't really affect anything, and the real matchup's going to be if and when they play in the playoffs.
I think this game affects Nick Wright's legacy more than Allen or Mahomes' legacy. That's the bottom line here. So yeah, that's how I look at it.
Yeah, I'm going to go off script just a little bit before we go into the coach's question, if you don't mind, because I heard a lot of talk about this, and I commented on Nate Geary's post earlier as well, about just what you guys feel this game means for the Bills or not. Or, I think, like I said in the opener, that, it's not going to matter come playoff time who won this game. But if the Bills really want a shot at having a week off at the beginning of the playoffs, I just think that this game means a lot for the Bills in that regard. So, I just want to reiterate that. And then what impact does this game have, on the coaches? Because I think for me, I'd really like to see, I'm going to put this more on our coordinators, like we kind of talked about earlier in our chat, is like more about Brady and Babbage for me, and seeing how they can perform in a type of game like this than it is anything. Obviously, we want to see situationally where McDermott can manage a clock and things like that people have criticized him for before. But ultimately, look, Babbage and Brady are the ones calling the plays now. So let's see what they do. McDermott is going to let these guys have rope out there to do what they want. And I think it's going to be a big tell to see how Brady and Babbage can respond in these big moments. What do you guys think? Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I think as far as, coordinators go, obviously as far as head coaches, you're going against Andy Reid, maybe the best ever, if not, for sure top 3, top 5. Like he's always going to have some tricks up his sleeve, especially in big games like this against the Bills. So the Bills defense, and that's McDermott and that's Babbage, are going to have to be ready for that. They're going to have to be ready to contain Mahomes. The Chiefs are just like a pretty balanced football team on offense now that they've added DeAndre Hopkins. But it's an interesting situation because in years past, the whole talk about the Chiefs is how do you slow down that offense? Like they're so high powered, they score so many points. But now I'm more so thinking like, how do the Bills attack this Chiefs defense? Like they've almost kind of like the Patriots did during their dynasty. Like they would like change their identities over the years. The Chiefs have almost completely flipped their identity. They're winning with defense and then timely offense at the end, but I don't think anybody would sit here and tell you Mahomes is having the best season of his career. He's played maybe like average to above average football, and they're winning just because their defense is so good. So I think we're really going to have to see some creativity from Brady because the basic like duo run game that they like to play may not work against this Chiefs D-line and D-linebacker. And I know we have receivers out. We'll talk about it later. Like Keon's out, Kincaid's out. Like they're going to have to get creative with how they scheme guys open. Like basic passing concepts are not going to work against this secondary, and Josh isn't going to have a ton of time with guys like Chris Jones chasing them down. So Brady's going to have to get creative. I'm hoping he gets guys like Curtis Samuel involved just because he's shifty, he is fast, and then if Amari Cooper plays, that would be awesome. But I don't know how much I don't know how close to 100% he's going to be. He has a cast. He's even going to be able to block, which is a big thing that you have to do in football. So it'd be interesting to see what Brady does creatively, just try to move the ball in his defense.
Yeah, luckily Jalen Watson's out though, so it does change, and we'll get in. Obviously, when we go through the offense, it does change a little bit how you can attack that passing defense from the Chiefs.
Yeah, and with these two coordinators, it's kind of cool to see. I mean, more so Reid is accounting as the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. It's basically two experienced play callers, very experienced play callers in Spags and Reid, versus two less experienced. Obviously, Babbage is his first year. Brady has had experience in the past, but compared to what Andy Reid has had, it's almost nothing when you look at Andy Reid's resume. So when you look at just play calling, it's going to be how can Brady and how can Babbage, these two younger coordinators, how can they beat the experienced, proven winning coaches, right, or coordinators? So it's going to be, I'm interested to see, one, how Babbage attacks Mahomes, to see if he keeps it the same or if he does switch it, see being a guy that is as polarizing as Patrick Mahomes, how they attack Travis Kelce as well, because that's always been a topic when the Bills defense does play Kansas City, is how can you slow down Travis Kelce? Obviously last year in the playoffs, we know it was bad because everybody was hurt. It was kind of a little bit of a rough time there for covering Kelce, but how can you slow him down? And how can Babbage attack that? And then, as Scott said, on the offensive side, what are you going to do to control Chris Jones? You're not going to be able to shut him down. That's just not possible to completely shut him down. But how are you going to minimize his impact on Josh Allen, on the run game? How are you going to use, I've even seen it in the comments a little bit, how are you going to use the running backs? Are you going to use them out of the backfield a little bit more? So it's really going to be something that, is Brady going to stray away from what he's been going with, or is he going to kind of keep it the same? Same with Babbage. How are they going to attack these guys who have a lot more experience than them and have been able to prove that they can win at a high level consistently for years, right? So it's going to be a huge game for both those guys. Reid, McDermott, we pretty much know what we're getting out of them when it comes to head coaches. So it's not, I think, as big of a game for them as much as it is for Brady and Babbage. So I agree with you guys on that point there.
Yeah, for sure. See if we have any questions from the audience here before we move on to the next topic here. I think we had one. How will the Bills get past without the injured players that's out for Sunday? So, we talked a little bit about this already, just now without really meaning to, I think. But look, Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid are the two guys out. Cooper's trending towards playing, so you still have Khalil Shakir. Mac Hollins has been decent at least, I think. And then we're waiting for Curtis Samuel. I think if Amari Cooper can play, I think you're looking at a little bit of less attention on Curtis Samuel. Maybe it's a running back and Curtis Samuel double flanking Josh Allen. You saw Washington yesterday run 2 running backs with Eckler and Robinson in the backfield, and you might see a little bit of that this week for the Bills. I think that could be something that would help be more effective. Anybody else want to take a shot at answering that?
I'm not gonna lie, I missed the question because I was looking at the chat there.
I can go while you find it. Basically, how we get guys gonna step up with all the injuries we have, but basically just next man up. You said Lance. Mac Hollins played really well last week when he was kind of playing that number 2, here's in the slot a lot. He's basically playing X receiver on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
He played really well, so we're gonna need him to step up. Samuel to step up. Dawson Knox, he's a guy who's been there before. I know his target share hasn't been super high this season, but he was the number 1 tight end here for a really long time. So he's no stranger to big games. So, and then, hopefully we can run the ball. Their defensive line is very good, but our offensive line is also very good. So if we were able to establish the run and kind of control the game on the ground like they did in the playoffs last season, just maybe with a little bit better execution at the end, then I think they should be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I agree there with mostly what Scott said when it comes to just who you got, right? I mean, we've been saying it especially you, Lance, you've been saying it for weeks, you got to get Knox more involved, see if he can step up. I think he can. We've seen it before. And when it comes to just guys stepping up, you've seen it happen this year. When Cook was out, Ray Davis stepped up, right? Even last week, I know Samuel didn't light the lamp, but he made some plays, especially early on in the game, right? So you're going to need guys to continue to step up. You're going to need a little bit more, maybe even from a guy like Samuel, but it's going to be the other guys that you've seen this year as well that need to step up, like Knox, like even Mac Hollins, right? And Shakir. You're going to need those guys that are the focal point of the offense to step up in place of those guys that are injured. So, I think that they'll be fine. At the end of the day, you also do have number 17 back there who can turn up his game at any point in time, especially against a rival game like this against the Chiefs.
Yeah, let's just turn right into the offense there, Shoop, with that question that, kind of similar to what we just talked about, but I think it's worth asking still.
Yeah, so, I mean, we just talked about, injuries. Kincaid's obviously out. That's the big one there. Does it that's really more question is not can guys step up, but how much does it worry you in the moment of, especially when those early downs, right? Those early downs is where you want to get Kincaid involved, get him 5 yards, get him 6 yards. Does it really worry you guys, at least in the early downs, or do you think that they're fine there because they can go to a guy like Samuel, or they have the run game that they like to lean on the early down? So we'll start with you, Lance. What do you think there when it comes to at least the early downs with Kincaid not being there?
Well, what I will say is it's been pointed out a ton this past week when Allen missed Kincaid on the play he got hurt, that he has a double-digit uncatchable passes to Kincaid this season. And so, although Dalton Kincaid's a great target and he's been a great weapon for this offense, he doesn't seem to be getting the ball, thrown to him necessarily by Allen consistently. So not to say that says he's not an effective part of the offense. He can be, and we're going to miss him. But I just think that's it's certainly a guy that we're going to miss, but I think we can overcome it. And we have guys like you mentioned that can step up. So overall, I'm not overly concerned that Kincaid's out, especially more so because we may see Amari Cooper on the field. And I think that gain there with getting Cooper on the field kind of outweighs the loss of Kincaid a little bit because we have other guys that can use some attention anyway.
Yeah, going off what you said, I'm intrigued to see how much Amari Cooper is used. One, because of his injury, but two, I know he's been here for a while now, but he's only played in 1.5 games because he got hurt in that Seahawks game. So interested to see how much they use him, how much he can really do. Is he out there more of just a decoy, or are we really trying to get him the ball and making him the focal point of the receiving group? But back to the original question of Kincaid, It definitely worries me, not just on early downs, on all downs, because he's someone that the Chiefs have to think about. Like, he's someone that they have to have one, if not two guys, like, paying complete attention to every time. I don't know if Dawson Knox necessarily brings that same kind of like aura on the offense, but maybe that's a good thing. Like, when the game that he went off against the Chiefs in 2021, they just forgot about him down the field like 3 times. So maybe that happens this Sunday. That would be pretty cool. But yeah, it's definitely a big loss. It's someone that Josh is comfortable throwing to. Hasn't necessarily had the season that I think a lot of people expected from him. But like you mentioned, Lance, a lot of passes he's just getting that aren't necessarily catchable. So not much you can really do there. But it's definitely a big loss. But Dawson Knox is definitely more than capable of stepping up and moving into that role.
Yeah, and it's going to be something that if they do struggle without Kincaid, that will raise more questions. But I think unless it really struggles, then there's not going to be much question, at least how much Kincaid plays a factor when it comes to at least moving the ball consistently, right? Maybe down in certain areas it will hurt more than others. But we got guys that have been here and guys that have chemistry with Josh Allen. So we'll see who steps up in Kincaid's place. We talked a lot about the passing game, how they can move the ball there and everything. And we haven't really talked about the run game, which the Bills have heavily leaned on this year. They've heavily leaned on James Cook. They've heavily leaned on Ray Davis. Even Ty Johnson's been in there a good amount. So the running backs have been a focal point of this offense for most of the year, if not every single game this year. The Kansas City Chiefs are a very good run defense. We've talked about Chris Jones already, man, but I mean, their whole entire run defense has been phenomenal. Even Karlaftis has played great ever since he's gotten in the league there. Dana's there, Tranquil, Bolton. I mean, you got guys that can make plays there. So should the Bills, I mean, the Chiefs are third against the run in at least yards per game. Do they have to still continue to lean on the run, or do you think the Bills should kind of stray away from it at least a little bit? Maybe not obviously entirely, but what do you think about just the run game? We'll start with you, Scott. Do you think that this will play a factor in how they kind of attack the run game against the Chiefs?
I mean, absolutely. The Chiefs' run defense is incredible. Their defense as a whole is very good, but you have to run the ball to be successful, because if teams are able to just, like blitz, get after Josh Allen, know that they're not gonna run the ball, they're able to like drop back and play zone because they know we're not gonna run the ball. It also like kind of takes out if Josh Allen's able to run, because if teams are playing man, there's chances for Josh Allen to break the pocket. No one's looking at him to take off. Or if they know they're not going to run the ball and they're not as worried about that, it's going to be a lot more difficult. And like Lance talks about all the time, the Bills are really successful out of play action. Play action doesn't work if you aren't running the ball successfully, because if you're not running the ball successfully, no one's going to fall for a fake. So yeah, they're going to have to run the ball. I don't know if they'll run it as well as they normally do, because this defense is so good, but it's something they're going to have to figure out. And that could be with schemes, misdirections, like picking a side they want to go to more. But yeah, they're going to have to run the ball if they want to be successful.
Yeah, I honestly think they might need to try to pass the ball a little bit more to open up the run. I think they can do it as an extension of the run game, though. I think they can do some quick hitters. That screen to the Khalil Shakir has worked well a lot of times, and then the screen. I don't know if screens to the backs, but swings or plays in the flat, quick outs by the backs, stuff like that can definitely help this team have an extension of the run game without just snapping it out of under center and handing it off or handing it off from the gun either. So I think they have to be creative in that regard, where they can get sort of that quick passing game, those extensions of the runs, the long handoffs, so to speak, going. And then that might open up some more room to run. The Bills, when they run the zone schemes and things like that, right, they're not necessarily having to push people directly out of the way. They're kind of hitting gaps, and it's more about the timing of the running back getting to the holes. So if they can do that, it bodes well. But the Chiefs are pretty good at disrupting that at the same time. So it's going to be kind of strength on strength, and we'll see. The Bills' offensive line, like Scott mentioned, has been very good. So I think that they can be successful in this game, and they're up to the task. But it'll definitely be a measuring stick, I think, for this offensive line to see, how well they can open the holes for Cook and Davis and Ty Johnson as well. But I really think the strategy that I would go with would be more kind of passing to set up the run in a way, and trying to get some of those, like I said, quicker passes that can be an extension of the run game rather than just trying a traditional handoff over and over again.
Yeah, and I think this is where, and I say it every week, this is where first down runs are going to become even more important. You guys hear me every game. You guys hear me every Friday talk about first downs or second down runs. You guys probably have dreams at this point about how much I say it, but
I do not dream about you.
It's going to be one of
every
those
time there's a first down run in any football game, I'm just messaging Shoop saying first down run.
We'll go back and forth for anybody that doesn't know. We'll go back and forth. If there's a good one, there's a message from Lance. If there's a bad one, there's usually a message from me. But when it comes to first down runs, I think this is going to be crucial to actually kind of stick with them, because of the fact that if you can't get it going, you're still going to have to stick with the run game. And if you get away from it, then it's just going to create your offense and become one-dimensional, and it's going to make it tougher for Josh Allen. So, I mean, the run game, I'm interested to see how they attack Chris Jones. I'm interested to see kind of if they do switch up the style of running that they have had this year, especially on early downs. A lot of early down runs have been in between the tackles. Do they get outside the tackles a little bit more on early downs? So I like to see kind of how Joe Brady attacks the run game here, and see if they stray away from it a little bit, or if they keep it at the same exact rate that they've been at. But my next question actually isn't on the outline here. I'm going to go a little bit off outline here. It's about Josh Allen. Josh Allen, past 3 games. Before the past 3 games, right, was take care of the football, not turning the ball over. Past 3 games, he's had 4 interceptions in 3 games. Last game didn't even have a passing touchdown, completed 59% of his passes. Is that a worry to you guys at all? Are you starting to kind of get in that mode of like, oh, is Josh now going to start turning the ball over at a higher rate? Is it more because who's not out on the field? What are your thoughts there on that aspect of it? Obviously, it's only been 3 games. It's not something like he's throwing one in 8 straight games like we've seen, in the past, where he's gone large stretches of interceptions. So that's really just what I kind of want to pick your brains about here is Josh Allen and the interceptions the last 3 games. We'll start with you, Lance. What do you think about the turnovers Josh Allen's had?
Yeah, I think one of them was kind of, no, the 2 that he threw he threw last week were pretty tough. But the Keon one, kind of like, man, that's not really his bad. So I thought, what was the one against the Seahawks?
Amari Cooper fell down.
Oh yeah. So definitely the last week where he threw those 2, those were not great at all. Definitely on him. I think that we hope to see less of that, because that is concerning. But overall, like the other ones were, happens. He had plays like that in the first 7 weeks that happened. The guys just dropped the balls, so they weren't interceptions. And so, like, it's not really that different, other than the teams that are playing now are having to catch the ball. So we don't see a lot of the arm punts yet this season. So I don't know if we see one of those this game, but overall, like I mentioned, with the Chiefs being down, Jalen Watson there, I think that helps Allen.
He's been out for a while though, so they've
just the last 3 weeks, right?
Yeah, that's a while. Like, their defense has figured it out. It's not they gave up, and now they don't.
Right, but they've gave up some passing plays to Denver, to the Raiders. And I forget the other team they played in between there as well.
Bucks,
but Bucks, yeah. So that Bucks, I mean, they went down the field with no problem at the end of that game.
Baker Mayfield's a dog.
So, I just think that you look at that and see, you may be able to see if you can get Najee Johnson in a unfavorable matchup and see if you could take advantage of that replacement. We'll see if they are up to the task or not. And Allen has to keep his poise and just continue to be able to take the boring plays at times if they're there. And if he can do that and just stay within the game, then I'm not going to be concerned. If he's taking it all on his shoulders because there's a couple of guys out, Coleman and Kincaid, and he thinks, he needs to do it all himself, that's when you start looking at being concerned and maybe, you're in a little bit of trouble trying to play hero ball. But I don't expect that necessarily. I think he's kind of been, he's learned and he's been good about taking what he's given and being able to distribute the ball to whomever. Again, we talk about there's not one person demanding the ball on every down here, and everybody eats. And I just think that that's going to really show up this week on how far Josh Allen and the Bills offense has come in that regard.
Yeah, what's the Bills record in the last 3 games?
They're undefeated, I believe.
Yeah, then it doesn't concern me. Obviously, like the 2 last week were kind of tough. Not the best throws. Maybe him and Sam weren't on the same page on them, but yeah, overall this season hasn't been careless with the ball. He's taken care of it, and in a big game against the Chiefs, he's going to lock in. And the Chiefs defense is good. Like, he will probably throw an interception on Sunday just because the Chiefs defense is good, and sometimes he tries to make those throws. But no, like, I'm not worried about it. I wasn't even that worried about it before because it very rarely cost the Bills games. I think people are realizing, like, Josh Allen with the turnovers, Josh Allen without the turnovers, their record is pretty much the same. So maybe the turnovers never mattered that much in the first place. But yeah, no, I'm not overly concerned at all.
You know who else could throw an interception and has been throwing a lot this year is Patrick Mahomes. So that last sentence here, Scott, right there of what's the Bills' record with Josh Allen having turnovers and with them not having turnovers, it's good either way.
I think they're 1-2 in the league in picks over the last however many years. So
yeah. And especially like Mahomes, people, I mean, I know Bills fans love the stat of dropped interceptions. Mahomes right up there as well. So when you look at interceptions, it's just, the Chiefs are undefeated and Mahomes has thrown as many as he has, and especially compared to how many touchdowns he's thrown. So I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that. I know that was kind of something people slowly have been talking about again. I mean, not so much Bills fans, more so, again, the national media there talking about Josh Allen. But yeah, we'll see if he does throw one this weekend. And if he does, let's hope it's an arm punt or it's not something that at the end of the day doesn't really matter. But we got 3 other questions here. All of them kind of goes hand in hand in a little bit there. So the first one is just going to be, which matchup is the biggest key in order to have success on Sunday? Is it offensive line versus defensive line? Is it a certain receiver versus corner? Is it the running backs? Which one is the biggest matchup? We'll start with you, Scott. What do you got for us?
I say Chris Jones just versus whichever offensive lineman that he's lined up on. He's listed as a D tackle, but he goes outside. He stays inside. He kind of bounces all around. So probably all 5 Bills offensive linemen are going to get the chance to get their hands on Chris Jones on Sunday. So he's a game wrecker. He kind of wrecked the game in the playoffs last year when he bumped Dion into Josh and just threw him off and he couldn't hit that post to Shakir. So whoever is blocking Chris Jones, we need you to bring your A game, dog, because he's a game wrecker.
What do you got, Lance?
Would help if I unmuted my microphone, I guess. So the biggest, it's not really necessarily a matchup. I'm going to cheat a little bit and go off script because I want to get this point in there, and we didn't really have a question that covers it. So it's going to be third down, getting the offense, picking up first down. Excuse me, if I can get this thought out.
Joe Brady
picking up first downs
on third down.
Yeah, trying to, kind of improve because their third down efficiency ratings aren't very good. 4.6 third down conversions per game is 19th in the league. Not really where you want to be. And 39.66% conversion rate, 15th in the league. Not where you want to be. That's down 10% from last year. They were about 50% last year. So, I got to say that, these matchups on third down between, Brady and Spags, if that's what you want to call it, but the execution on third down from the offense as a whole has to be a lot better. I don't think the Chiefs defense is necessarily killing it when it comes to their defense. They're middle of the pack on defense when it comes to third down. So they're not necessarily the best 19th. Third down team, but they're also 19th in conversion rate. Yep. And 16th when it comes to per game conversions given up. So, it's not like they're really good at that, but they're, the Bills aren't very good at it. So we have to definitely have to be on our game on third down. And I think that it's going to be challenged because Allen, for whatever reason, hasn't had a really great chemistry shown with Curtis Samuel yet. And I feel like he could be a huge weapon on third downs. I think he can be that kind of missing piece to drive that conversion rate up. And it just hasn't necessarily been there. So he does have a very good familiarity with Dawson Knox, who's going to be forced into a bigger role this game. So I think that that helps maybe for whatever reason. And then obviously Mac Hollins has been a big target for him at times when he wants to. I think Mac can definitely have some out routes and things like that. He runs pretty well and be able to, show up, and he's got great hands, just possession guy. And then Shakir, we'll see if they can execute, maybe something. He's been so effective on those quick plays and screens, but, maybe we get him down the field just a little bit in that 6 to 8 yard range and see if he can grab that and go and pick up some more yards too. So I like the guys we have still, and like I said, if Curtis Samuel can get on the same page with Josh, I think that that third down efficiency goes up a ton. But we'll see where that goes this weekend. It's what I'm going to be watching for.
Yeah, my matchup is going to be. I'm guessing it'll be Nick Bolton, but whichever guy that they designate to be the number one spy on Josh Allen. We saw it in last year's playoff game. It was a huge aspect of the game was they had a guy spied him on Josh Allen all game. As soon as Josh got in the pocket, they were going after him, right? They were not letting Josh Allen beat them outside of the pocket. My guess is they'll have a similar strategy again this game, unless they're waiting for later in the year if they have to use it as a surprise. But that is going to be the aspect of the game, and I'm guessing it's going to be Nick Bolton. How can Josh Allen at least beat that guy, and how can the offense attack that if the Chiefs are going to put an emphasis on limiting Josh Allen outside the pocket, which we all know Josh Allen outside the pocket is one of the most dangerous things on a football field. How can the Bills beat that? Because they really struggled with it again in the playoff game last year against the Chiefs. And if they do it again this Sunday, Josh Allen's going to have to find somebody open quick. And when you don't have if you don't have Amari Cooper, when you don't have Kincaid, Coleman, who's another guy that Josh says that was one of the reasons why Josh wanted him in Buffalo, was the ability to help his quarterback outside the pocket when he has to extend a play. So you already have 2, maybe 3 guys that could be out that will be huge in that aspect. How can you attack them, and how can you limit that aspect of a guy spying Josh Allen? So that's going to be the number one thing I'm looking out at, is how more, I guess, Josh Allen versus whoever they have as the spy there. My guess will be, again, Nick Bolton. So we'll see what goes on there. A lot of different aspects for the offense. But as always, as we do every week, as we finish the offense and finish the defense, which we'll get to later with the defense, it's who needs to step up and who will be the offensive MVP. Let's go with Lance first on this one. Who's going to have to step up, and who's the offensive MVP for you?
Well, I think stepping up's easy. I've been talking about it the whole time. We've been talking about the offense, right? Curtis Samuel's got to step up. We got to see it. We got to have something. I think that helps the offense a ton if he can be effective. And overall, I think that Khalil Shakir will be the MVP this week. I hope that he can really find a rhythm and go for some big plays and be able to, help this offense be super successful. With Amari Cooper trending to play, I think Shakir and Samuel both have pretty good games overall.
For me, step up, similar to the matchup, offensive line. Like we said, the Chiefs' run defense is really, really good. 3rd in the league, so the Bills' offensive line is going to have to win if we're going to want to run the ball.
Sorry to interrupt you, but how worried are you? Like, if Spencer Brown can't go, what do you think about Vandermark on the offensive line there?
He looked solid on Sunday, but to be fair, I think it was for 3 or 4 snaps. He looked awesome on that screen they ran. Like, he went out and took the souls of 2 different guys. So Vandermark has looked fine, like what we've seen from him, but he's not Spencer Brown, obviously. So it definitely will worry me a little bit. But if you're going to be missing one of your tackles, you'd rather it be the right one than the left one. I have a feeling Spencer Brown is going to play. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would miss a game over almost anything. Kind of like Terrell Bernard last year. They might have to save him from himself if his injury is serious. So I think Vandermark can step in and play fine. Obviously, he's not going to be quite as good, but even more so if he doesn't. It makes the emphasis on the O-line even more important. Like I mentioned, Chris Jones lining up all over the place. Where do you think they're going to line him up if RVD is out there. So offensive line has to step up because like we said earlier, if they can't run the ball, they probably can't win the game. And then MVP, I know this is like kind of a cop-out answer. We try not to do it, but it really has to be Josh Allen.
Go for it,
Like,
baby. I love it.
if he doesn't have a good game, they don't win.
Yep.
And that's more so true against teams like the Chiefs than it is against anybody else. Like, he did not play great last week against the Colts. If he plays like that against the Chiefs, they're not going to win the game. He can't turn the ball over too much. He can't miss throws. He can't see things late and miss it like he did on the Kincaid thing. So we're going to need him to be locked in, and especially if they can't run the ball effectively, like, he's going to have to make some magic happen. So again, I know it's kind of a cop-out, but they don't win unless Josh Allen is the MVP.
Yeah,
I love that. Just real quick before you go, I think Allen's propensity to be able to escape pressure and extend plays is just pivotal, especially in this type of game.
Yeah, and I do want to bring up this comment from John here based off of what we saw last week, especially with Dion, who struggled with it all year. That's going to be key for the offensive line. When it comes to my needs to step up, I'm going to go with the guy that we've talked about, pretty much all show here. I'm seeing it in the comments as well. We saw Dawson Knox. He's going to have to be the guy to step up here. And it is, as Papa Ron says here, it's a great opportunity for him here to kind of prove to Bills fans, hey, I can be a big part of this offense. I can be a part of this offense that is key in the games. So I think Dawson Knox is going to have to step up. He's going to have to be that guy that can make big plays and make big catches. We've seen him make big catches in the past. We've seen him step up before. So he's going to be my guy who needs to step up. MVP, I was actually going to go with Josh as well. I was going to basically say the exact same thing Scott said, but I'm going to go with James Cook this time. So James Cook, I think if the Bills do end up winning it, the running game is going to have to be good, whether it's James Cook, Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, or all three of them. They're going to have to be good, but I think James Cook, both in the pass game and in the ground game, will be pivotal, and I think he'll have a solid game on Sunday. So there's the offensive MVPs. There's the who needs to step up. Let us know what you guys think. I saw some comments down there already, like we just put up there. So let us know who you guys think for the offensive MVP and who needs to step up there. But I do believe that I'm going to pass it over to Lance here real quick before we get into the defense.
Yeah, I appreciate our comment producer, John, there reminding me, and then also Papa Ron there. So please smash the like button, whatever platform you're on. Please give this a like if you would. Please share this on whatever platform, whether it's reposting on X or sharing on Facebook, or share the YouTube video on whatever platforms you may be able to share. And then please subscribe to that Built-in Buffalo YouTube channel. Definitely trying to grow the subscriber base there. Make sure you're following on Facebook and give us a follow on X as well. And we're also over on Blue Sky and Threads and all the different social media platforms if you can. Go check us out on all social medias. This show is sponsored by Buffalobills Sports and More and Monster Energy Drink. So head on over to the Buffalobills Sports and More Facebook page, and you can get in on some really great custom Bills things. We have a great helmet here that Frank made for us, and really thankful for his partnership. And then obviously Monster Energy has been a real blessing. We're there every Sunday that the Bills play at home. We'll be over at the Big Tree Inn with a big monster tent. So head on out. Scott and I will be there this weekend. Ben will hopefully be there as well, and we'll get the grill out, and hopefully I got some more fun coming for different tailgating events in the near future. But you can get free samples of Monster Energy Drink if you like. We plan to be in the parking lot by like 10 o'clock over at the Big Tree on Sunday. So come visit us there at the Built-in Buffalo tailgate. Sponsored by Monster Energy, Buffalobills Sports and More, and shout out to the Water Buffalo Club 716, who's also hooked us up there and been a great partner with the tailgating. So go out to Water Buffalo 716's pages as well and show them some love, and you'll find me with the big Water Buffalo hat on Sunday.
Yeah, it'd be a good time. And Lance, I will already put in my car. I'll have real ping pong balls this time, so we won't have to use a rubber duck out of my Jeep. So we're moving on up.
Do you still have that rubber duck, or did we lose it?
I have a Wrangler. People just leave them on my car.
No, did you get the rubber duck from week 1, or did we lose that
I
one?
think I donated that to the Big Tree parking lot, but I have like
Nice.
6 more in my glove box, so we're
Amazing.
not going to run out. So yeah, moving on over to the Bills defense, and they're definitely going to have their hands full. I know the Chiefs offense maybe isn't what it used to be, but they still have Patrick Mahomes, and that guy's really good. DeAndre Hopkins over the past couple weeks has looked like he's kind of ingraining himself into that offense, and they can run the ball pretty well. I know Pacheco is still out, but Kareem Hunt is doing solid. And then Taylor Swift's boyfriend, he's not bad either. So, like we mentioned earlier a little bit about the Chiefs maybe not being the best in the red zone, they're only 17th in red zone touchdowns. Ben, it kind of feels like that kind of plays well into what the Bills like to do. They're okay letting the teams move the ball, but they kind of tighten up in the red zone, try to hold them to field goals. And with the kicker not being there, that could be something that matters. What do you think the Bills can do this weekend to try to contain Kelsey and Mahomes once they get in the red zone? And because they're obviously going to move the ball to Patrick Mahomes, but hold them to 3 instead of 7.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to also in the red zone is keeping Mahomes in the pocket, keeping him contained. You have the guys out there that can cover and that can shut down receivers, and especially for Kansas City, they've been without Rice for weeks now. Obviously, they do bring in DeAndre Hopkins, but at the end of the day, when you look at this receiving corps, it's not the greatest receiving corps in the world. It really isn't. Besides Travis Kelce's there and DeAndre Hopkins. Those are the two that you got to have a focal point on, especially when it comes to in the red zone. Those are the guys he's going to be looking for. You saw even last week, especially Travis Kelce had a touchdown, and he should have had 2. Mahomes missed him on a wide open play. That's who he's looking for. He's not going to be looking for Xavier Worthy down the red zone, right? He's going to be looking for his go-to guys. So that's going to be the big thing in the red zone. And I think you continue with that bend don't break. I mean, it's been working. Bobby Babich has really put this defense into a phenomenal position when it comes to getting down the red zone. That's been the big difference for me from years past, maybe even in big games, is in the red zone, the defense really gets to work and really says, no, you're going to have to work to beat us. I know against the Colts, they got a little bit lucky because Josh Downs did drop a walk-in touchdown, but at the end of the day, they have the guys out there who can be big playmakers in the red zone. You're going to have to see a guy like Teron Johnson step up. You're going to have to see other guys step up, and it's going to be a challenge. But at the end of the day, they're not top 5 in the league. They're not even top 10 in the league when it comes to red zone. So we'll see how they attack them. I would also imagine Kareem Hunt gets heavily involved in the red zone. That's really the main reason that would concern me in the red zone, is they love to get Kareem Hunt involved, not just in the ground game, but in the pass game in the red zone. So I think that you're going to want to watch out for him. I believe he had like 9 or 10 targets last game out of the backfield. So he's going to be a guy, especially in the red zone, that you're going to have to watch, because the Bills also historically haven't fared with running backs out of the backfield all too great when it comes to, at least in crucial times, getting the running back stopped out of the backfield. So we'll see what they do, but I think they got to stick with what's working for them.
Come on, Ben, all too well. It was right there.
Missed that one.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you have to have that same defensive strategy that you've had all year. I think it works well, and it's just going to, like we talked about a little bit, making sure to force that 3, and what does that come down to? Getting the stops on third down. And it's pretty crazy how, like, the Bills' EPA per play on offense is 3rd in the league at plus 0.12 on all, just overall. But when you look at just third downs, Kansas City goes from 12th all the way up to 1st in the league with a plus 0.34 EPA per play on third down, and the Bills dropped to 12th at a plus 0.02. So I really think that, again, I'm going to belabor this point because it just, the only way to hold them to 3 is stopping them on third down. And that's just been the issue, I guess, for teams this year as to why they've stayed undefeated, because when they are able to get down there, they're able to at least keep their drive alive enough to score when it matters. And then we'll see, because the defense for the Chiefs has kept them alive. The special teams obviously blocking that field goal has kept them alive as well. So I think the Bills defense has a pretty good shot to continue that success, especially in the red zone. We know, especially like you mentioned, there's going to be a few drives where they're able to move the ball, but I don't think they're going to move the ball up and down the field all day long necessarily. I just don't see that. But when they do make it inside the 20s there, I think you're right. Exactly. That has to come away with 3. And, I think that the defense, the Bills have a lot of their dogs back on defense. And I really like the matchup this week. And I'm so excited with Matt Milano being more integrated in practice and things like that. That might help Dorian Williams even more, being more effective this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked about third down there, and that's what we kind of want to get into next. Chiefs, like you mentioned, number 1 in the league in third down. They convert their third downs 52% of the time. So more than half the time, for those of you who were not math majors, like similar to myself, not a math guy, that's more than half. The Bills are going to have to get the Chiefs off the field. And similar to that is, like we mentioned, getting pressure on Mahomes, but keeping him in the pocket. Like if they can keep him, when they make those big plays with Kelsey, it's when he's able to get outside the pocket, buy time, and they're just so good at finding holes. So we need to get pressure from the D-line, but smart pressure. So keep him in the pocket, keep him contained. Lance, what do you think are some of the keys for the Bills to get the Chiefs off the field on third down?
Yeah, it's going to be pressure on the quarterback, right? I think that I've tried to watch as much third down film as I could leading up to this. I didn't get to watch every single snap of the Chiefs on third down, but what I watched of them was that, Mahomes has basically like a 3 Mississippi count. And then if he's not there, he's extending the play, rolling one way or the other, or taking off and trying to get the first down with his legs. So the Bills really need to, be able to either get some coverage sacks here or really get some quick pressure. I see a lot of people talking about Ed Oliver in the comments too. I think that's a huge thing, getting pressure up the middle, trying to force a decision. And but then when Patrick Mahomes, because he's able to extend plays and he has escapability there, you have to kind of keep him contained while keeping the coverage up down the field. So it's going to be a challenge. It's been a challenge for every team this year. And I think that really starts with pressure up front and especially in the middle of the defense. I think those guys have to try to push him outside where guys like Groot, Vaughn, and AJ Epinesa can hopefully contain him there and bottle him up.
Yeah, I'm pretty much just going to echo what Lance just said there. It's going to come down to if they can step up. I mean, we've saw Groot making some plays in the past few weeks and honestly having a solid season. You've seen Epinesa starting to come on as well. You're starting to see these guys come on. And Ed Oliver had a good year last year after he signed it, but this year, as people have been saying, it's kind of been a little bit. There's been some left to wonder, right? You're wondering how much more can he do? He can do more. That's the thing, is that on the football field, he is more capable of making bigger plays, of being more of a game wrecker. And this is one of those games where you would love to see him show out. I mean, you're seeing it around the league where these defensive tackles are starting the past few weeks, starting to take over, right? You're starting to see guys step their game up. I mean, number one, you saw it even last night, right? Jalen Carter was the guy who started the year off slow. Now the past few weeks has really become a game wrecker. And can Ed Oliver become that guy? We've seen him in the past become a game wrecker. We've seen him in the past have big games, but can he do it on a more consistent basis? And this year we haven't really been able to see it too much. So yeah, it's going to come down to getting that push up front, controlling the offensive line, and really just putting Mahomes in situations that he's uncomfortable. It's hard to get Mahomes uncomfortable, but once you start getting him going, you're gonna start getting yourself going as a defense, right? Once you start seeing Mahomes get hyped, you're gonna, as a defense, be saying, "All right, this guy, that's when these types of games get awesome, right? When you have Josh going crazy, you have Mahomes going crazy, you have guys going, getting the energy up. The beat defense is gonna have to bring the energy, especially on third down. You can't just bring it on first and second down, even if it's third and long. You're gonna have to bring that energy on third down and get him off the field, which is easier said than done. As Scott mentioned, it's under half the time you're getting him off the field, right? So it's not an easy feat. And I'm interested to see more how Bobby Babich kind of attacks third downs. I don't think that he'll bring in too much pressure when it comes to blitzing. And I think that he'll put more of an emphasis on making sure everybody is covered, making sure Mahomes stays in the pocket there.
Yeah, you mentioned blitzing. Like blitzing really good quarterbacks is generally not necessarily what you want to do because they're going to find the one weak spot. They're going to find because if you blitz, a lot of times you're playing man. They're going to find their play. They're going to find their guy. So the Bills are going to need to get pressure with 4, be able to cover with 7, and take away what they want to do. So yeah, we saw it in the comments here about like Von Miller. Like Von Miller, Greg Rousseau, Ed Oliver up the middle. Like one of them is going to have to get a sack where they just win their matchup and they just get home before the play has a chance to really unfold. So we did the same thing on the defense, or excuse me, on the offense. Now we'll do the same thing on the defense. Lance, what's the matchup you're most looking forward to seeing, or matchup you think is the biggest key to the game?
Yeah, I think it's whoever is going to be covering Travis Kelce, or the zone, the second level. If you want to say, when I say second level, I'll say that's kind of like Bernard Williams and Teron Johnson in there. And then you also have to group in the safeties kind of because they help a ton. So just like covering Travis Kelce and making sure that like he's just not wide open randomly, and he just happens to always be against the Bills just at least 2 plays a game, just randomly wide open. And Mahomes is way too smart and savvy to not find him. Obviously has the arm talent as well. So even if you are getting pressure and you're not covering Kelce, he's just going to find him. So it's like, please just don't let Travis Kelce be standing by himself at any point in this game, and put real pressure for those other guys to step up. I know they have Hopkins and things, but they don't have a ton of impressive other wide receivers. I mean, Worthy, for whatever reason, actually Worthy and Mahomes haven't been on the same page a lot this year either, and Mahomes has missed him a couple times. Hopkins looks like he's got some chemistry already with Mahomes now, but he's not the player he once was, I don't believe. So I feel like, the main matchup you got to is just slowing down and making sure Travis Kelce's a non-factor in this game. And then I just think the other players on our defense are good enough to neutralize the other weapons the Chiefs have. So I think the main focal point has to be, not leaving Travis Kelce wide open.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the defensive tackles, right? You're going to see Daquan Jones. You're going to see Ed Oliver. It's going to be them versus Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, right? Those are the 3 in the middle there for KC. You're going to have to beat them. And it's not just beat them. You're going to have to, even on the reps that you can't get pressure, you're going to at least have to force Mahomes to move around, right? You're going to have to force Mahomes to not just sit back there all day and be able to scan the field. You're going to have to get it, even if he does make an amazing play out of the pocket like he does, like Allen does as well, where they get out of the pocket. At least you're making him work for it. You got to make him work for everything, even if it ends up in a positive play for the Chiefs. So mine's going to be the interior D-line, interior off versus the Chiefs' interior offensive line. That's going to be my matchup to watch.
Yeah, mine is just both the Bills safeties, assuming it's DeMar Hamlin and Taylor Rapp most of the time. They're probably going to get matched up on Kelce a decent amount, like Lance was mentioning. So that's a big one for me. Can DeMar Hamlin step up, make plays? Can he tackle in space? He's going to have to. Can they keep the lid on that defense? Because Mahomes has a big arm. Xavier Worthy is really fast. He may be a one-trick pony, but that one trick is really, really good. He runs a 4.22 or whatever it was. So you need to keep the lid on it. Need to come down and help and run support because Kareem Hunt's been running really well for them since they brought him back. And now onto the last section of the defense. Who needs to step up? Who needs to be the MVP? I'm going to go first so no one steals mine because I'm hosting the segment. Step up, Ed Oliver. Like you hit on it a bit, Ben. Just the D tackles have to win. Ed Oliver has to have a big game. Like we need him to stuff the middle. Daquan's going to eat some blocks. We need him to get off single coverage and make plays. If he can get pressure up the middle, that's huge. And kind of push Mahomes off to a side, and one of our DMs is hopefully there. So getting some pressure in Mahomes' face would be huge for Ed Oliver. Then MVP, I'm going to go Terrell Bernard. He's probably going to draw Kelce a decent amount. So if he can, cover him well, that will be huge. And then just not losing guys in space. When Mahomes gets outside of the pockets and extends the play, we know it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Can he, as captain of the defense, I know it's not all on him, but can he make sure that everything kind of stays organized, guys stay in their lanes, and he makes sure that everything runs smoothly and they know what they want to be in? Because when Mahomes gets outside of the pocket, we see it with Josh every week, really easy to lose guys. And as the middle linebacker, a lot of that falls on you and making sure everything is where it's supposed to be. Ben, what do you think?
For my step up, I'm actually going to go with two guys that might be a little bit of shock when it comes to saying they need to step up because they've done so great all year, but it's going to be Rasul Douglas and Christian Benford for me. We know Travis Kelce is going to get his. He's going to get his receptions. You've even seen teams saying, hey, we'll give him his receptions as long as you shut everybody else down. We've said it all show. This receiving corps is not the best outside of Travis Kelce. DeAndre Hopkins is a solid player, but outside that, it's just not there because you don't have Rashee Rice, right? It's going to come down to, can Douglas and can Benford actually completely shut them down? And that means when Mahomes extend plays, when Mahomes gets out of the pocket, can they stick with their guys? Can they make it tough for these receivers when it's in that scramble drill? So I'm going to go Douglas and Benford. I think that they definitely will step up. They've been great all year. My defensive MVP, we said him in the comments, and I know Lance said it in our chat as well, is it's going to be Von Miller. Von Miller looked great. He was very quiet on the stat sheet last game, but he made I'm blanking who the right tackle is right now that they played last week. But he made him look silly a few plays. And on third down, we've talked about third down is going to come into factor and going to be huge. If Von Miller can make those plays on third down and get to Mahomes, at least get Mahomes uncomfortable, that's going to be huge. So I think Von Miller will have a big game. I think he'll be the guy that is the difference maker this game, especially when it gets down to crunch time, right? We brought him in for that exact reason, and he's starting to look like he can be that guy again.
Yeah, Braden Smith is the right tackle for the Colts there, so was able to beat him. I think, I'm going to pick a kind of, because there's not much left out there. You guys nailed it on the head. I think that the most important is the D tackles, and I think the next most important is Douglas and Benford. And so what I want to see is Dorian Williams in coverage step up. Step up when you're asked to cover somebody. This is a game where you're going to need to have success in that, and he's not the best at that. It's not the strength of his game, but we're going to need it, or we're going to see a lot of dime out there. So, if Cam Lewis is out there in his stead, then Cam Lewis needs to be the one to step up. Otherwise, Dorian Williams, if he's in coverage, I would say he needs to step up. The MVP for the defense this week, and I still think Teron Johnson is that guy for me a lot. I'm going to be kind of consistent with this a lot of times because he just does so many different things. And I think like bringing him off the edge a few times here and there and just being able to impact the game in big moments is a huge factor for the Bills. And I think Teron Johnson's kind of that X factor guy that they have on defense that they can do that with.
Muted, Scott.
Amateur.
I was clicking the mute button on the screen, not the mute button on my face. That'll get you. Even the pros, folks, make mistakes. Obviously, like you mentioned, going to be a really good game. Hopefully, we'll see what the Bills can do. Mahomes kind of has our number, but Josh does really well against him in the regular season. Hopefully that continues. And because if the Bills want to get the 1 seed, this is one that they probably have to have. But like you said earlier in the show, Lance, not a make or break either way. Now you're muted.
Classic. Rubs off. Let's get a couple predictions here, whether you want to give your score or not. But let's get a couple predictions, and I'll let whoever wants to take it first go, and we'll get to our first edition of a new kind of segment, or first official, where we actually have some pictures to show you and some fun stuff after our game prediction here.
I'll say mine first for the Bills game, just because I'm going to get it out of the way, because I know that I'm going to see some comments automatically. I'm going with the Chiefs 28-24. I just think it's one of those games where the Chiefs are not going to want to lose this. They're going to want to keep their winning streak going, and maybe it's also a little bit of mind games in my own head, where if the Bills lose this game, maybe then they'll actually win in the playoffs against the Chiefs if they do face each other. So I'll take the L here, and I'm gonna just go with the loss. I think it'll be a close game. By no means, though, does that mean that I don't. As I hit my mic, that by no means mean that I don't think the Bills can win this game. I fully think they can, but I'm going to go with the Chiefs win this week.
I unfortunately also am going with the Chiefs victory. I'm going to go 20-17. I think it's a little lower scoring than a lot of people think. So it's going to be a tough game, but yeah, I think Chiefs 20-17. But like Ben said, hopefully we get our loss to the Chiefs out of the way in November instead of January.
Lance is going to start his own show soon if we don't pick a Bills win here. It's a Scott, but go ahead, Lance.
I'm going 42-24 Buffalo Bills winning this game on Sunday. I think they got enough. I think the defense steps up, and I think the Kansas City defense doesn't, and something's got to give here. They need to lose a game and get shellacked a little bit here, and the Bills are the team to do that. I think the Bills do have a lot to play for. I think the Bills have, like I said, a ton of motivation to go after this one seed. The season's not over. If you lose this game, the one seed's basically over. And if you win this game, then you have a hell of a shot at the one seed, because I don't think Kansas City is going to be able to run the table. They got some divisional games left against the Chargers and Broncos yet. And I think the Bills still can have a shot to finish with 3 or 4 losses. And if they have the tiebreaker and finish with 3 losses, I think the Kansas City Chiefs will finish with 3 losses, and we end up as the one seed in that scenario. So it's not necessarily the easy path. I don't think it's going to be easy for the Bills to do this, but I think it's at least possible. And if they don't win this game, then none of that's possible. And I think that that's just a huge chip on the Bills' shoulder to go out there and play the game of their season so far. And it's not necessarily saying it's the Super Bowl for them by any means, but it's like it's time to put it all together. Go out and show at home some strength and show that you are a formidable team. And it's not going to matter come January what they do in this game, but it's still going to send a message if they can end this perfect season so far for the Chiefs, send them home with their first loss, and keep themselves in the conversation at least for the one seed. So with that, I will move on to each week. We kind of have done what kind of bets we like for the weekend, and then we kind of started informally giving you a college football parlay. So this week we organized ourselves. We had our guy Tasker Brown, who does our graphics for us, put together a beautiful picture. So this is our triple coverage podcast college football trifecta of the week.
Whoa.
Boom. I didn't have any fancy music to play or anything. I apologize for the production lacking, but we're trying to enhance that as we move forward in our show here. So Scott took BYU -2.5, and let us know a little bit about that, Scott.
Yeah, so BYU plays Kansas at home. I know Kansas has been playing really well recently, but I don't think that they can go into Provo and beat BYU, who is still undefeated, needs to win out to for sure get in the Big 12 championship game to have a chance at the playoff. BYU just came off a tough rivalry game at Utah. I think that was maybe their scare. That was a game they probably should have lost. So I'm hoping that maybe woke them up a little bit coming into this week. They can cover this 2.5. Vegas just all year hasn't respected BYU. They had like a 2.5 point spread and they went and played Baylor. They beat them by 20. They had a 2.5 spread when they went and played UCF. They beat them by 20. Now they have a 2.5 spread against Kansas, and they're at home. So I think they cover and they keep their undefeated season alive.
Yeah, and then Ben, since I'm not able to be seen while this graphic's up, I'm gonna let you go. Ben took LSU -3.5.
Yeah, both these teams they've lost their past 2, both of them. But when it comes to Florida's had a pretty brutal season. The past 2 games they lost to number 3 Texas, number 11 Georgia. So for them, they were kind of expected to lose those games. Those were 2 top tier teams. For LSU, they also played 2 ranked teams. They played Alabama and Texas A&M, lost both of them, but both of those games were crucial games for them. They were, hey, should this LSU team be considered for the playoffs? So I think this game, even though that the loss to Alabama kind of knocks LSU out of the playoffs, I think this game for them is saying, hey, if we lose to Florida, people are going to be laughing at us, and people are going to be saying, why did we ever even consider this team into the playoffs? So I think for them, it's going to be a huge point of pride for this game for them, especially because you're going away. You're in Florida to say, hey, we can beat this team. We're not going to drop 3 straight games here. So I think for them, that's going to be the big one. And I think LSU is going to end up covering it. And I just think Florida's had a rough season. So I think LSU will come out and just pounce on them and say, hey, now we're definitely the superior team here.
Yeah, I'm going to take a little bit of pride in our armed forces here and take Navy +7 against Tulane at home. I think Tulane may ultimately win that game, but I'm picking the midshipmen to stay within a touchdown in that game. 8-2 on the season there for Navy, I believe. So it's going to be a good game. I think they fight at home to stay within a touchdown at least and cover that spread. All right, with that, I think that basically does it. Again, come see us at the Big Tree Inn on Sunday. Come out there, support all of us and the Water Buffalo Club 716, Monster Energy, Buffalobills Sports, and more. Really appreciate it. We'll be handing out free samples and just having general fun. So with that, hope you all have a great, safe weekend. Hope to see some of you on Sunday, and go Bills.
Go Bills.